Malacadelli with the Zonta Club of Midland. We're here today to let you know about the 36th annual Zonta Homewalk. My guests are a member of the Zonta Club of Midland, Nancy Barker, who also happens to live in an Alden B home, and the director of Alden B Home and Studio, Craig McDonald. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Let's start off with some history of Zonta. Nancy, let's talk about who are the Zontans, what does Zonta mean, when was it formed, what do the Zontans do, and where?
Well, we'll start with who are the Zontans here in Midland and worldwide, as a matter of fact. Zonta is an association, an international organization of women in the professions and business women in particular. And we have a wide range of members here in Midlands County area, which is wonderful. One of the assets of belonging to Zonta is that you have great fellowship with people you might not see otherwise, and yet you can join together in accomplishing a lot of good things. We work together on advancing the status of women, really, and also the professional and the personal development of women. We try to offer help and mentorship to all ages. But I loved your question about what is Zonta? What does it mean? Because it is kind of interesting, kind of an arcane and interesting question.
Yes.
Zonta is actually a term that's made up of old American Indian legendary signs, which when taken together and written together mean honest and straightforward and trustworthy. And I can assure you all the Zontans in Midland strive to be that way.
Yes, absolutely. Well, now Zonta International does a lot of work internationally, of course. What type of work do they do?
Well, I had some personal experience with that, and I'll tell you a little bit about it. Basically, we are very concerned worldwide with the advancement of women and the protection of women and their health, their welfare, their advancement in terms of professional competence and ability to take care of themselves, their health and well-being, particularly nowadays in what is happening to women worldwide, which in some cases is quite tragic.
Yes.
But on the pleasanter side of that, I had an experience, probably 20 years ago now, traveling to Korea. And I was by myself, but part of a women's organization, not Zonta, as a matter of fact, and was invited one night to the home of the local president of this other international organization. And she had chosen to invite people who belong to Zonta all over the world.
Oh, nice.
So, to my amazement, by people from every country that was taking part in this program or conference arrived, and everybody was there. And now I'm going to have a confession. I did not represent the US of A very well. Because one of the things that she asked us all to do in order that we could share fellowship and get to know each other in many different languages, just to sing some common folk song from our country. Do you suppose I could think of a common folk song? I couldn't even think of Row, Row, Row Your Boat. So I think I let us down. But
I doubt that.
It was a wonderful experience to meet the women from all over the world, to realize we share a lot in common, but we also share grave concerns for the health and well-being of women and children.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the programs that's in the forefront of Zonta International now happens to be ZISBA, which means Zonta International Strategies to End Violence Against Women. What's going on with the international projects for the biennium, do you know?
Well, one of the things that Zonta does, of course, is local projects, which we'll talk about, I assume, in a little while. But part of what we do, and part of the dues that each of us pays, goes to support the international programs all around the world. And we in America, not all women in America, but we in Midland area tend to be very fortunate people. We have our professions, we have opportunities. In other parts of the world, there are grave problems. There are problems of women who are in migration, or there are problems with young girls being married in some of the African countries at a very, very early age, long before they should have to be expected to be married or certainly bear children. And these are the sorts of things that that particular fund is now is working on and trying to help with the remedying some of those situations.
Human trafficking is a big topic internationally and actually nationally, and it's in Michigan.
You would think so, would you? In this day and age, it's almost unthinkable, but it isn't. I have been on airplanes, actually, because you become alert to these things, and in my business travels, well, I have occasionally wondered about passengers on a plane where there's a very quiet woman who seems to be very much under the thumb of a companion who does not look like a friendly person. And it not only happens internationally, it does, I'm sad to say, happen even in our state and community, I suspect. We're learning more about this, and I think that there are many organizations that are partnering to try to make a change in this kind of thing.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about a little bit about the Zonta Club of Midland, just a couple of quick things. When did it form, and what is the current membership?
Well, the Zonta Club of Midland has about 75 members now, and it was founded in 1947. I'd like to say before I was born, but that's not true.
Okay.
It is a wonderful organization. I've certainly enjoyed it. I can testify that it's a great thing to belong to and love to have new members, as a matter of fact. But we concentrate on helping with local projects, and you and I think, can talk about that a little bit more.
Absolutely.
But our major project, of course, is the Homewalk, which we will be talking about just now.
Yes. Well, we do support many different organizations here in Midland. We support actually 24 different organizations.
I'm not surprised to hear that number.
Yep. And there were 4 of them that we wanted to just briefly mention. Which 4 of those do you?
Yeah, in fact, Linda and I
in.
talked about that, Craig, a little bit beforehand, because there are so many projects that we do support, and we do this with work, not just with our financial support, because financial support is crucial, but we also work on these projects together. One of them that I'm particularly familiar with, of course, is the Go Red for Women project, which happens annually, and a number of the Zonta members are leaders in were leaders in the founding of that project, and as you know, heart problems are still the #1 killer of women, but the statistics are getting better, and I think it's partly because of the educational things we're doing. The other thing that I would like to mention, of course, Big Brothers, Big Sisters. We are all familiar with the need of families to have that kind of support, and we are long-standing supporters of that group. And also, as you've mentioned, the Michigan Human Trafficking Task Force, which is quite new, and that's a new project. The other thing I was thinking about mentioning too was the Midland Blooms, because all of our members I have seen out there on their hands and knees with trowels in hand, and they do a great job of helping with that. And we also have a tendency to put on aprons, not because we are just, going to cook, but because we help with the literacy, what used to be the Literacy Council, now Legacy Council, in terms of their annual wonderful
dessert party.
great dessert party, absolutely.
Yes.
And because we do that, we do snitch a little dessert.
Yep.
We do. I have to admit it.
And we're great supporters of the Shelter House and the Christmas party for
absolutely.
the children and
we
the women.
Help to wrap gifts for the Shelter House and try to be on hand for the party that they give for any of the residents at the time. It's a particularly tough time of year for people who are having that kind of domestic problem. And the other thing, we started just last year a student club at Northwood University for young women, which takes some leadership training out to the campus area. So that's a new thing for us.
That's a wonderful program too. Well, the Zonta Club of Midland does earmark about $6,000 for these projects that we mentioned, the 24 4 different organizations we're part of, in addition to our scholarships. Now, our scholarships, this is why we have the Homewalk. The main reason we have the Homewalk is to raise money for these scholarships. And this year we gave out, how many? We gave out 8 different educational scholarships through the Midland Area Community Foundation for $2,000 apiece. We're one of the biggest donors for and supporters from the foundation for education here, and that was $16,000. So I think that's a thing to note, is this is why we have the Homewalk.
That's right. I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of the things when one purchases a ticket for the Homewalk, why it is going to support women, some who have been in school and need to come back now and be retrained. They may be working now, but they may find themselves in a job that is not self-sufficient to keep their families going. We have a number of people who apply for scholarships who need to have training, never have attended college. And the scholarships are available not only for postgraduate, post-high school, college training, but for certification and vocational, educational types of certification that lead to employment. That's the bottom line. We're trying to help women find a way to be productive in the way that they actually always want to be.
It's a changing world out there, so we have to do that. In addition to the $16,000 for the scholarships that we've done this year, and we have done more in the past, and we've done less in the past, but that's a good average. What our goal is for this year again. We also send $9,000 from our local club to Zonta International to help with those international programs that you spoke about, as well as $4,000 for some other local charities that come directly from the Homewalk as well.
That's right. In fact, I'm glad you mentioned the international again, because I really struck a few years ago. We had a group of 24 women from Afghanistan who visited Midland, and they were here to try to learn how to put together a business plan and start a business. You know, prior to the difficulties in Afghanistan, women were greatly liberated. They were in their Congress. They served as doctors, lawyers, no Indian chiefs, but doctors, lawyers, and professional women of all kinds. And then in the recent years, why, of course, with the coming of the Taliban and other difficult sorts of social things happening, why that it just hasn't been true. So a group was brought here. They did attend Northwood University in the summertime to learn how to put together business plans. But we, as the Zonta group, sponsored them, so to speak, for some of the important one-on-one activities, and became friends with each of these women, and invited them to our meetings, invited them to speak to us about what their lives were like in their homes and at home. And it was a very moving experience. I confess I worry sometimes and wonder about them. But the organization which brought them to the United States was working with the State Department, and they continue to work with them, and now are working with women from Rwanda as well. So we have been a personal part of some of these things. It's just not sending money somewhere, but actually one-on-one relationships.
It makes a big difference. Well, now let's turn the subject to the 36th annual Zonta Homewalk.
Sounds good.
And we've got a special treat this year. We're featuring all mid-century modern homes designed by local architects. Now, some of these architects came from other areas, born and raised somewhere else, but they came here to work with Alden B, and we have a special guest here with us today, Craig McDonald, the director of the Alden B Home and Studio, and he's going to tell us a bit about mid-century modern architecture as well as some of the architects' designs.
Great. Well, it's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to team up with Zonta. We did so back in 2004 when we featured all Alden houses and had great success in sharing Mr. Dow's architecture and raising a good amount of money for Zonta in that year. And so it's a treat to do it again and to broaden and expand our scope, because Mr. Dow, although he initiated the mid-century modern movement in architecture in Midland, there are many people who added to that and who are a part of that wonderful architectural heritage that we have here in Midland today. We have over 250 structures in our city that represent the mid-century modern movement and make Midland such a unique place within the United States, in that we are so predominantly influenced by one style of architecture. So it's very exciting. And for those folks who kind of say, you know, we hear this mid-century term all the time. What does mid-century mean? It certainly denotes it was done within a certain time period, usually early 1932, 33, up until 1960s. So it is a specific date, but it's more about a design philosophy, about a lack of ornamentation, very clean lines, an appreciation for materials and craftsmanship together, certainly a connection to nature, because as humans we're so impacted by the natural element and always want connection to it, whether we're inside a structure or not. An open and adaptable space. That it's something, if we look at what young people want today, we're going back to those tenets because it's so adaptable and it's so relatable and so human. And so it's great that we refresh ourselves on what mid-century means, and we're just so blessed to have so much of it here.
Yeah, we sure do, as a matter of fact.
You know, Linda, before we talk about the individual houses, which I hope we're going to have a chance to do, maybe we should backtrack just a little bit to tell people who are watching how the Homewalk works, because I am surprised to hear that some people have not attended a Homewalk yet. And each year, this is the 36th year, as you've mentioned, each year Zonta is able, through its friends and relationships across the community, to usually identify about 5, once in a while 6 homes of differing architectural types, differing ages, and each of those homes is decorated for the holiday season in a very festive style. So when you attend the Homewalk, which you may do either of the 2 days it's offered, it's always offered the first weekend in December. That is a given, so
Always.
we are very happy for that. And you may attend either day. Your ticket entitles you to visit each of the homes once, but you can split it up. You don't have to go all one day. And but back to the homes themselves, the designers or decorators, always add a festive touch, and you get a lot of good ideas, and no matter what the style of the home, and this year it's a very special style, it's going to be wonderful, you always have inspiration, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Well, let's let Craig tell us about what is the first home that's on the Homewalk, which is now the Alden B. Alden and Veda Dow Creativity Center, and we're going to talk about the home part of that house. So we will bring up the photo here of the house, and then we've got a couple of extra special photos.
Great. Alden and Veda were such great philanthropists, and near the end of Mrs. Dow's life, she created what's called the Alden and Veda Dow Creativity Foundation. And so the house is owned by it, but it is the Alden and Veda Dow Home, which is a part of the Alden B. Dow Home and Studio, which is one of our 2 National Historic Landmark buildings in Midland. And although we share it on a very full-time basis with the public, it's such a treat to share it with Zonta. And at Christmas time, and in honor of Zonta, we want to show Christmas throughout the decades, because Mr. and Mrs. Dow were kind enough to allow us to keep their personal items in the house. So when you come in, you're going to be stepping back into Christmas of the 1940s and Christmas of the 1960s and Christmas of the early 1990s. Mrs. Dow died in '91, and so there are 3 areas that will be decorated, which represent different aspects of their life. The first area will be the sitting room, which has the decorations of when their 3 children were young, and then as the family grew, they needed to move Christmas to a new space. Things like the dining room table, which I know we're seeing right now, these are their vintage decorations, their china, their flatware, and Mr. and Mrs. Dow just had such a great sense of play, and Nancy can attest to this, knowing them well, that on the dining room table, beautiful candles, Christmas balls, but toys that wind up and spin, and Christmas was about fun and engagement. Beautiful music boxes that they had bought in Europe or were given to them as gifts to just show craftsmanship and beauty, and add that element of play to the holidays. They were very fun with their children, that the children got one gift from Santa and then gifts from their family, but Christmas was about enjoyment. In the game room, which we're seeing right now on the film, this represents once they had all their grandchildren. They have 8 grandchildren, and just the sitting room was too small. They were busting out of their seams, and so this represents a different time and a different element of play, with lots of youngsters running around and lots of great toys. And so it's fun to see how it transitioned throughout the decades. And then at the end of Mrs. Dow's life, we brought Christmas back upstairs, and it became even more beautiful candles, Christmas balls in the window. So you really get to see how it transitioned and changed, because life changed, and Mr. Dow was always aware that houses have to change, environments change as we change as humans. So it's a really great element of toys and trains and light and just real Christmas beauty at the home and studio.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I can't wait to see it myself. Let's look at home number 2. This is a design by Robert Schwartz.
Actually, the house we're looking at right now, this is actually by Jack Hallett.
Yeah, and I can tell you a little about that one, because I lived in one of Jack Hallett's homes once, and this is not the one, but this is a home that Jack built. That's kind of funny, isn't it? This is the house that Jack built, and it was built on what my husband Bill Barker and I agree is the only hill in Midland. It is so interesting. I wasn't conscious of it, but this house is on Sylvan Lane, and when you drive up to the house, you will see that you will have to walk up a rather steep driveway to get to the house. It is on the top of a hill. So it has a wonderful vantage point. You can look out over the neighborhood. It's a wonderful house. It is very typical of Jack Hallett's houses, I think. It has a lot of wood in the interior. The current owner is a great collector of mid-century modern, as Craig has just mentioned, accessories. He has furniture that certainly is of that period and by some of the very famous designers of that period. He has ashtrays of that period. He has kitchen equipment of that period. It's really quite fun to see that.
Theme,
right in the theme, absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, the next home, I think we had the pictures mixed up a little bit, but Craig, this is the Robert Schwartz home.
Yeah, Robert Schwartz house that's actually over on McGregor, and this is a house that, as the current homeowner calls it, the wedding cake, or reminds them of a wedding cake because how it's tiered. And the great thing about this home walk is we're going to take and see how each of these architects define mid-century modern for themselves. And Schwartz is such a great architect with unusual materials, also an appreciation for wood, as all of these architects do. But then he's always challenging materials and construction systems, like even in his own house, the dome house that we all can see over by the library, a geodesic dome house. And so this is a wonderful house that an architect currently lives in too, which I think is a great testament to Mr. Schwartz, that a designer, himself, the current owner, and his family really appreciate all those really great details that Schwartz puts into his structures and disguises the house from the public view. And so this is the very private view that we never get to see. So it's such a treat to be able to see this. So it's a wonderful structure.
Good. And the next home is a Red Warner, Francis Red Warner home, Nancy. We have also some interior shots that we'll talk about a few little items in that home.
I'm glad.
This is the Red Warner home.
Well, Francis Red Warner again, was an architect that I was happy to know during the 1960s, and this home is absolutely beautiful inside. It has been, the artwork that has been collected and selected by the owner is particularly beautiful because it fits the site perfectly, and if it certainly, I was going to say it's just an exquisite taste, but it's certainly my taste. And I'm trying not to steal any of it.
We have a few pictures of the
Oh, do you really? Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
There we go.
There's a Charles Breed plastic, and Charles Breed, of course, is the founder of Dahlia Hill, and Charles had work in the Museum of Contemporary Craft, and when I moved to Midland in the 1960s, why, he was our most famous artist, and probably still is, as a matter of fact.
And there's this wooden piece.
In the yes, indeed, that is a lamp that was designed by Mr. Dow, and Craig can give you I think 1959, that era.
In the 1950s, certainly, yes.
And this is a Larry Butcher piece that is in the Lane, the house that we're talking about, the Lane residence entryway in the deep stairwell, and you'll see when you enter the house that all of the artwork is just placed beautifully, so you can enjoy it very, very much.
It's just a quick picture of the stairs.
An exciting part of this house too is that the Lanes had it built and worked with Mr. Warner and still live in the home. So this is an original homeowner who helped with the architect define what home meant for them. So it's a really exciting experience.
That's very rare, I would think, nowadays.
Okay, let's move along to the next home, which is an Alden B. Dow design. This one is on Valley Drive, I believe.
That's right, and this home is a home that was designed for the president of the Dow Chemical Company, Leland I. Doan. It was designed by his cousin, Alden B. Dow. And this house is very, very interesting. People will particularly enjoy seeing it. It's going to be decorated by Smiths of Midland, and so the Christmas decor will be exceptional, I can tell you.
I think we have a special picture of the window there.
Oh, yes. Well, this is the front door, actually, and it's absolutely beautiful,
Stunning.
beautiful work of art, as you can see. Very wide, which was a typical thing with Mr. Dow, wasn't it, Craig? The other thing I wanted to mention, that the house was built, of course, for a certain amount of entertaining that any president of a multinational company would need to do. And yet, today, it is lived in by a young family, a very active young family, part of the family, as a matter of fact. And you will see that his what shall I say, it suits every generation. It's beautifully done and very, very warm, colorful. It's a lot of fun to see.
Great. And the last one is an Alden B design, is the Rest Stop Midland Center for the Arts. Craig.
Yeah, this was a really great passion for Alden Dow near the end of his career and the end of his life, that he wanted Midlanders to be able to see great works of art and explore ideas in art and science, and then be able to create them. And he and Mrs. Dow and our community all together created this wonderful art center for us that really represents his belief that we, especially when we're young, we need to be inspired, and then we need to figure out who we are and then develop those gifts. And the Center for the Arts gives us all of that. We are so inspired there, but then can create there. So it's wonderful that we're adding this mid-century modern building to be the rest stop for the Zonta Club Homewalk this year.
Yes, I think is a wonderful contribution to the asset that our community has. Well, we need to wrap it up real quick. I will talk about the tickets. We have the tickets which are available at some ticket outlets that you will see up on your screen. Our tickets are $15 in advance or $20 on Saturday or Sunday of the event, and every Zontian in town has the tickets available. You can also get them in addition to the ones on the screen. You can also get them at the Alden B Home and Studio at any time when they're open. $15 in advance, $20 the day of, Saturday or Sunday. And you can also get them on our website, www.zontaclubofmidland.org, as well as the businesses as you've seen. For more information about the Zonta Club of Midland and the Zonta Homewalk, you can check out our website. And we would like to thank you all for both of you for joining us this year and today, and certainly look forward to seeing everyone. We look forward to seeing you at the Zonta Homewalk.